I've seen this headline appear a lot in the last 24 to 48 hours. The headline has been is that the Republicans are launching a bill that would require fathers to pay child support to unborn babies. So I'm just looking at this article from the Daily Mail. I'll post it up in links so you could look at it too. So that's a source where I'm reading from today. I'm not going to read the whole entire article, but the article's title is Republicans launch bill that would require fathers to pay child support to unborn babies. Senators say legislation would make it possible for a mother to get back pay from as early as conception. Okay, so it says right here Senator Kevin Cramer, who's a Republican from North Dakota, introduced the Unborn Child Support Act last week that would amend the Social Security Act to ensure that child support for unborn children is collected and distributed under the Child Support Enforcement Program. Under the bill, mothers would be able to request child support from the moment of conception and would even be able to collect the payments retroactively if paternity was not established until birth. So basically, this law, if passed, would put you on the hook for child support the moment the woman is impregnated, or the moment that she finds out she's pregnant. She could put you on child support. So you would you would be on a hook that early in the game, which I found very interesting. Personally, I think the child support laws in this country are very cruel and barbaric, and they need to be scrapped. That's just my personal opinion of it. This just adds to it. It's terrible. One thing I'll say, I have seen from other articles the last day or two that on top of this is that the woman can randomly just name a guy to be the father of the baby before he's born. So they could just put the random name of some dude that they decide to pick. It could be John Smith, and you could be on the hook for child support even though you're not the father of that kid. Granted, women can also do that even when the baby's born. They can put your name on as the father, and you got to take that paternity test to prove that you're not. But they can just put it earlier in the game. And on top of that, I've heard is that I think in a lot of cases the woman can refuse to get tested. I think a paternity test before the baby is born to prove whether or not that you are the father. She could refuse it. I think the test is called a prenatal test, and I think it costs between $300 to $500. So that is pretty expensive. If you're just a average to below average guy income wise, so you might not be able to afford it. On top of that, I've heard that in in a lot of these states, if they pass the law, that the woman could refuse to take the prenatal test, and it's not mandatory that she will have to take it. So you could be screwed from the beginning, even though that's not your child. She could just decide to put her name on there, which I think is terrible. It is terrible from the get go. It is awful. So I do not like the idea of this. I think a lot of guys will be a victim to this if this gets passed. It is awful. So I'm gonna read right here what it says in the article. It says the bill has 9 Republican co-sponsors in the Senate: Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, Marsha Blackburn, Cindy Hyde Smith, Roger Wicker, James Langford, Jim Inhofe. I don't know if I said that name correctly. And Steve Daines. These are all Republicans. I can tell. I recognize a lot of their names, and these are all Republican states. So, yeah, it's safe to say these are all Republicans right here. So they're behind this law. So they're behind this. On top of this, I think there's also another motive to get this passed. This has to do with the Roe versus Wade situation of it being struck down. If this bill gets passed, it would determine that personhood legally starts from the moment the baby is conceived. So that it starts from the beginning. That's actually a person or a life. So I think that's another motive for them to try to get it passed. So that way they can legalize this in all 50 states. This anti-abortion law. So I definitely think these two things are connected, and that's their motive. I honestly think the other motive is to make more money off the child support system. The child support system generates billions of dollars, so of course they're gonna want to make more of that government cheese, as they would say. So there's always that motive in there to make more money. You gotta look at it from that perspective. When politicians try to pass these laws, they're trying to benefit somehow financially or some industry financially from this. So that plays a huge role in this. Also, another thing I'd like to talk about, and before I talk about the subject, I just want to make it clear I don't like either the Republicans or the Democrats. I think they're both rotten, and I don't think they represent the average person, the average citizen, as they would say. They work for the rich and corporations, both of them. Both are backed by different types of industries, and they're both owned by the rich elites. This is you can prove this easily. I'm not gonna cite all these sources, but if you do your research, you'll see that they have rich donors that they answer to, and they don't care about the regular person. So I just want to make that clear. So you'll see why I'm going to go into this next rant. So this is a little bit off tangent, but sticking to the subject to some degree, is that there's been this movement the last several years in these dating communities called Red Pill or MGTOW. The movement is based on how today's modern women is not marriage material, and how the laws are out to get you, that these divorce laws are terrible towards men, they're awful, and the child support laws are cruel and barbaric. Basically, that these laws are not are against you. They're not going to work for you. They're not in your favor. So there's no point of getting married or having kids. I actually agree with with this group about these laws. I think they're horrible and they are pretty shitty and crappy and they should be scrapped. I'm 100% on them on this. But here's where they lose me for a lot of these groups. I've seen this a lot from these white MGTOW guys or these white red pill guys, which they start screaming just, hey, to change these laws and for men to get more rights, they need to vote Republican. Because if they vote Republican, they'll change all this stuff. They'll get rid of it and they favor men's rights and all this other stuff. But I think this should show them, granted, they won't admit it, but I think this should show anyone who's into that shit that the Republicans don't give a shit about you as a man. They don't care. They really don't care. The only people they care about, just like the Democrats, are the rich and the corporations they answer to. I wish people could see this. I wish a lot of men could see this who get brainwashed to join these groups and they don't use their own brain to think properly. So that's another thing I would like them to realize from just seeing how the Republicans are trying to pass this awful law. So I guess that was another point I like to make about it. Overall, though, my opinion is this is a crappy law. I hope it fails. It's bad for two reasons. It punishes men with more cruel child support, which is awful, and I think it punishes women also because again it helps to make the anti-abortion ruling even more powerful. They're trying to make it legalized basically across all 50 states if this law gets passed. That's the underlying motive. So I think it's shitty for those two reasons, and I hope it fails. I hope it fails miserably. But we'll see. It could still pass even though it's a Republican bill because I think some Democrats could be into it. But then again, now that it challenges the anti-abortion law, I think they will reject it. However, you just never know later on if a Republican president takes over and you have the Republicans running two branches of government, this could pass. So we should all be aware of what lies ahead, and that's all I had to say about this.